What high school conspiracy turned out to be true at your school, not safe for work? Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. There was a girl freshman year who went missing. She ended up being found dead in the river. There were rumors that she was seen on a bridge with her boyfriend the day she went missing. Nothing was ever found, and they assumed it was a suicide or an accident. Fast forward 25 years, and the boyfriend murdered his best friend of several decades, set a fire to cover it up, and went on the run. A couple days later, he killed a woman at a rest stop in the bathroom to steal her car. They reopened a case about the high school girlfriend. That rumor was correct all along. He'll be in prison the rest of his life. There were rumors about a music teacher and a student, but they were both pretty dramatic people and did very little to dismiss the talk, so half the school wanted to believe it for the salacious thrill and half just waved it off as attention-seeking and shit-talking. Teacher got canned without explanation. Most of us just figured it was budget-related. A math teacher filled in on his music theater roles. Years later, I randomly caught up with the student and she said that the rumors were true. She freaked out and tried to end things to shake off the reputation, and eventually the teacher showed up trashed and naked on her family's front lawn in the rain, yelling out for her. Ugh. Like a really effed up version of John Cusack from Say Anything, but with less boombox and more drenched wang. That one of the cheerleaders was dating one of the teachers in his 40s. A year after graduation, they got married and had a baby, still together 11 years later. I attended a newly opened high school that apparently used to be a school for troubled kids. Someone told me there were padded rooms somewhere in the school, so I skipped lunch with a friend one day to walk the halls and find them. They did exist, but by next year, they were renovated into offices and storage rooms. I thought that was pretty interesting and seriously wondered what went on there before it was turned into a normal high school. That there were tunnels under the school that led to a hidden pool. Confirmed by my father, who was a maintenance man for the school district. The tunnels were just utility tunnels. The pool is below the gym floor and was abandoned due to financial reasons. My old math teacher was a WWF wrestler. I recognized him from my childhood days channel surfing and couldn't find anything about him on Google, but I was so sure it was him I just asked. I was right, LMAO. There were 3 seniors in different years who married teachers shortly after graduating. One was my former prom date. That our IT teacher slept with his students. He was attractive, young, friendly, etc. Then, suddenly, a rumor went around the school that he was sleeping with a 6th former, aged 17-18. He was suspended for a while, but then decided to leave after he was cleared of wrongdoing. He got a new job at my cousin's high school across town. He did it again there. Got caught with another 17-year-old and was fired shortly after. My history teacher / tennis coach made moonshine and hosted cockfights in his barn. I ended up becoming friends with his son, and it was all true. Sounds cool. There were stories about the music teacher having sex with some of his students in exchange for solos, better grades, prestige, or jobs after graduation. They later turned out to be true. He was found guilty in 2018 and was given a 6-month prison sentence. He's barred from teaching and lost his pension. The news hit my dad rather hard, since they studied together at college and were good friends. Dad had no idea. 2 of the teachers hooking up on a Europe class trip. Gone for a week, came back, and the rumors started. 2 weeks later, a rumor started he got divorced. Last week of school, they were spotted at a restaurant together. Looked him up a couple years after graduating. They're married. That my high school history teacher was putting whiskey in the 2-liter bottle of Pepsi he carried around every day. He was caught trying to buy liquor for some senior girls, and it resulted in a car chase we all watched. The police had to pull out the spike strips to catch him. That the married drama teacher was bonking the substantially younger art teacher. He swore blind that not only was it not true, anyone believing it should report it to the head because it was so unprofessional. Then a few years later, they had a baby. Miracle. One of the comp sci teachers was faking his doctorate. Never went to college at all, if I recall correctly. We weren't allowed to talk about it because he kept working there for the rest of the school year. He'd go absolutely apeshit on students who called him Mr. X over Dr. X, though. It was ridiculous. For years before I got to my high school, there was a rumor that the admin assistant, guy you went to when you got in trouble, was doing drugs, selling drugs, and confiscating from students without turning them over to police. Well, about 5 years or so after I graduated, he got busted a couple of towns away for possession of cocaine with intent to distribute. That our high school had an extensive network of underground tunnels and shelters left over from World War II. Sure enough, not long after I graduated, they were renovating one of the weight rooms that was either at basement level or partially underground, and they found an entire walled-off room stocked with supplies from the early Cold War era that no one had remembered. So maybe the supposed tunnel system under the football field was a bit of a stretch, but there were definitely hidden shelter or stockroom areas that had been forgotten about. Lead in the water. Our high school tap water was dark brown, and we weren't allowed to bring our own water bottles or get filtered water from the cafeteria without paying $3. We sent hundreds of emails asking the school board to look into it, but they said it was fine. In my senior year, a student did a science fair project on the illegal amount of lead in the tap water, forcing the school to investigate and fix all the taps. Due to budget cuts or something, all of our metal and woodwork shop machines were to be taken away and replaced with worse versions. The shop teachers and drama teacher that were in the building at the time didn't like the idea, so they hid all the machines in a false wall somewhere in the building. The people came to pick them up, and they told them that they had already come to pick them up and that they were late. They did some looking around and couldn't find the machines and gave up. A few years and one principal later, they brought the machines back out from behind the walls, and that's how the smallest high school of our district, with only around 450 students, became the best school in the district to learn metal and woodwork. English teacher who was close with students, not in a pervy way, but more like he was a fellow student instead of an authority figure, was hosting weekend poker parties with his closest students where he would serve booze and weed. One weekend, someone prank called the cops, claiming one of these parties was happening. They went to his place, and there was one happening as described, but with porn on every TV in the house. Teacher was immediately fired, had his license revoked, and disappeared for a couple of years. Students tried protesting the firing because, well, he was the cool guy who gave them weed and booze. According to social media stalking, he's back teaching English at a high school a few hours south of my town now. We had a math teacher who was homosexual. This was in the 80s, so more of a thing then. Well, he was still closeted, but it wasn't much of a secret. He and the health teacher had a brutal rivalry, talked shit about each other all the time, played pranks, hated each other, etc. The conspiracy was they were lovers, even though the health teacher was married. A few years after I graduated, I heard they were found out, and he had put a bullet through his brain. Terrible. We had a student teacher, so a reasonably attractive guy who was about 22 or 23. The rumor was that he was dating a girl in our class, a senior who was nearly 18. It turned out the rumor was wrong. He was dating her younger sister, who was in 8th grade. Ugh. Conspiracy, rumor, was that the chemistry teacher was a pedophile. He was older and overweight with a physical disability. I thought it was just people being judgmental assholes and even defended him until I looked it up. He was caught in a To Catch a Predator style sting at his last school trying to meet up with minors. I have no idea how or why the school hired him. I even sent a message to the superintendent but never received a reply. Automotive mechanics program in high school. The teacher was suspected to be doing drugs. In class, often it looked like signs of withdrawal would take over and entirely consume him. It turns out he was doing drugs because he was let go. We found needles and spoons under the seat of a school vehicle we had been working on. I hope he's doing well. It was sad to see him deteriorate in a short amount of time. We had a teacher in his 30s who was rumored to ask pretty graduating seniors to hang out in the last week of school, so technically he wasn't sleeping with students. Well, he asked the wrong girl, and she told everyone. My algebra teacher was having an online affair. She would teach for about 5 minutes and then tell us to read to ourselves and do our work while she typed away on her computer. One day, she just didn't show up. Turns out, she up and left in the middle of the night to move out to Ohio, to be with her internet boyfriend. Pretty mild, but I grew up in a town of 700 people, so it was huge news. Also, our volleyball track coach sleeping with senior girls. There was even a fist fight between 2 girls over this. I didn't really pay much attention until I got into high school and joined track. He had me doing weird stretches when he was directly behind me while I was bent over. I was super innocent and fairly dumb about sex. I knew it was creepy, but I just rolled with it, although I was uncomfortable. One of the boys on the track team I swore who hated me because he was always picking on me pulled me aside and told me what the coach was doing was perverted, and he was clearly excited the whole time. This kid went to the principal in my defense, and the coach resigned that next year. I don't believe he was ever caught, but after he resigned, I learned his wife was a former student of his, and their relationship started while she was in high school.